Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest tonight is the Maverick senior editor, Lauren Hitzhusen. Lauren, so happy to meet you. So glad to have you joining us. Maverick
Thanks
has
for
been doing
having me.
great work. Mad Cave has been doing great work. I read Princess Guinevere and King Arthur today because, you said you wanted to talk about them, and I like to be prepared. I
I
don't
love
remember the
talking about
television
those.
shows at all. So I felt a little lost, but I enjoyed them nonetheless. Um, so hi, how's it going?
It's going well. I hope things are going well for you.
They are.
Um, you
I'm
have a
being
very cute cat.
smothered with love from Eddie. Yeah, he's like our additional podcast host. All of our myriad listeners, hi mom, hi John, hi Britt, know about Eddie. Most of them have met him in person. Um, so talk to me about. I've talked to Ed. Well, I guess Shelley Bond's been a senior editor at some point. I've talked to lots of editors. I like talking to editors, but all of them have like different roles depending on the company, depending on like whether they're a senior editor or an assistant editor or a freelance editor or whatnot. So I'm going to lead off with talk to me about just your job. What do you do
Yeah.
at Maverick?
So what I do is I work on all the books. I make sure that deadlines are being met. I
What?
read. I know.
Don't you know they're artists?
I read all the scripts that come in. I get to develop ideas for books, which is really fun. I get to work closely with creators on ideas that they want to pursue. And yeah, I make sure that things, like I said, that things are getting turned in on time. I cast books, meaning that I find teams to either write a book or draw a book, color, letter, all the good stuff.
Right.
So that's a lot of what I do. And then a small part of my job is doing things like this, talking to podcasts. And
Hey, hey.
I'm a huge fan of going to conventions and talking about them there,
Conventions can
Maverick.
be fun.
I love conventions.
Uh,
Um,
I like the panels. I like Artist Alley. I like the ones that are smaller and more comics oriented.
yeah. I
I
feel
don't
like there
always
has
like people.
But as a senior editor, I also help maintain the vision of what Maverick is and make sure that any projects that we're taking on really align with the Maverick mission, which is see yourself in the pages.
Okay.
Um, and
It's
yeah,
a good
that's
mission.
thank you. I
It's a
am
good
really
mission.
proud to be a part of it. And that is essentially my job in a nutshell. It's a lot of emails and
What?
a lot
I
of
never
reading.
would have expected that.
I
I thought you were old school and wrote letters.
hand, handwriting
I,
letters.
I, I thought you were keeping the post office in business.
I actually do print out all of my scripts, which
Okay.
gets to be a little excessive because my books are 120 to 200 pages.
Yep.
So you,
Yep.
you can't see it, but I have a wall of binders that are full of all the scripts that I work on. And so I am a little bit old school in that regard. A lot of my
Okay.
coworkers will edit directly on the computer. I'm like, man, I can't do that. I have
Can't
it
do that.
physically in front of
You,
me,
you
and then
need
I
you
will
need your
retype
red pen.
everything. Yes,
You need
I
your red pen.
I actually do all of my editing in pink,
Oh, okay.
varying
I
shades of pink.
never
I
would
think
have
it's
guessed that
friendly.
pink was a color of yours. Our listeners can't see this, but Lauren is sitting in a very pink room.
Yeah, it's my office is very pink. I have a collection of Minnie Mouse ears on the wall. I have a poster of Pusheen. It's a very pink office,
Yep.
and no one can ever really see my desk, but my planner is pink. My notebooks are pink. My
Okay.
computer is pink.
Your headphones are pink.
My headphones are pink. There's a lot of pink.
She can't stand pink. She's just she needs to torture herself while she's working. She's like, what color will make me ignore my surroundings and work?
I like when I hop on a getting to know a creator call, every single one
Right.
of them is delighted by my office.
I am too.
And I think it kind of says about, who I am as an editor. They
Right.
immediately see the pink and they're like, "Oh, okay. You're fun." I'm like, "I hope I'm fun."
Yep. I hope so too. It's always good to be fun. Um, so Maverick is the Mad Cave's YA line, is it exclusively graphic novels, or
It
do you
is
ever
all
do?
graphic
That's
novels.
what I thought.
We don't do monthlies.
Okay.
Which so
I don't have a
because my
problem
books are
with.
so, oh yeah, I don't have I love it. My
Most of the reason
introduction
I
to comics was graphic novels
right.
and buying trade paperbacks because when I was getting into comics, I felt like that was a better way to stretch my dollar was to buy larger books because they'd last longer. And so it's fun to be back in that.
Yeah. No, really the only reason I ask is I don't think I'd ever seen any Mad Cave or any Maverick single issues. Was King Arthur in particular read like there might have been breaks in the original script. So I'm like, did this come out in single issues and I missed it?
No, it's always been an OGN
Right.
since day one, which it's been fun, especially those two properties, Arthur and Guinevere, have been really fun.
Well, talk to me
Um,
about those two properties
oh my
because
gosh, I
because I
could.
had no idea they were properties until I was at the C2E2 panel. I went, oh, there was a television show that must have been between the time that I was kids and or I was a kid and when I had kids, because I have no memory of it whatsoever. So it must have been that really narrow
I
window.
I think King Arthur is 92 and 93, and then
Okay.
Guinevere is 94, 95.
So I was like 13 to 15. Yeah. Okay. That would be
Uh,
the era that I wasn't paying attention to that kind of.
to what cartoons
Right.
were being
Right.
made.
I mean, maybe if one of my brothers been into them, but I don't remember my brothers being into them. I'll have to ask the next time I talk to them because I'm the oldest. So when I was 15, my youngest brother was 7. So it's possible.
So this started, we were asked as editorial if we could think of any licenses that we wanted to pursue. And I loved Princess Guinevere and the Jewel Riders as a kid.
Okay.
I also knew that there had not really been any new media in a couple decades.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Um,
what did it cost? A nickel?
and I reached out to Mike Martz, or
I'm
sorry, I reached out
only
to,
saying that because Kevin Smith used to talk about how he would buy random rights for like $5 a piece when they pop up because there was all sorts of stuff that would like pop up and nobody even at one point he had the Fletch rights that he only paid $10 for
wow.
because there was a period that like nobody knew they were out there.
This was I reached out to I initially said Mike. I reached out to Mark Irwin and said, "Hey, I grew up watching this show. If I can figure out who has the rights, is this something that we can look at?" And he said, "Sure." And
And really
uh
quickly for me and our listeners, Mark Irwin is
he is the president of the
okay.
company. And I reached out and we ended up getting the rights. And when they came back to us, said, "Do you also want King Arthur and the Knights of Justice?" And I had never heard of King Arthur and the Knights of Justice. And we said, "Sure, why not?" And
They definitely had the corner on Merlin related cartoons
it really
in
did.
the early 90s and
Um,
yet don't cross over, which
they
was
don't.
weird to me.
They don't at all. The Merlins also look totally different.
They
If
do.
listeners, if you want to Google Merlin, King Arthur, and the Knights of Justice, and Merlin, Princess Guinevere, and the Jewel
I
Riders,
mean, they
they are,
both have beards,
and that's where similarities
though
end.
though
One of
neither
them
of
is
them
like
have
6'5", and the other one is 3 feet tall.
right, and neither of them have beards as long as the one in Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
So it's like they wanted to make certain they were separate from there. And rather than Archimedes, the owl becomes Archie
Yes.
because we can't be we have to be reminiscent but not the same is my hunch.
Um, and when we got the licenses, I reached out to Chaz Pangburn, who's a coworker of mine, and I said, "Have you ever heard of this King Arthur thing?" And he had. And I don't want to steal his story, but he told me a great story about watching the show as a kid. And the more that I worked on the books, the more people kind of came out of the woodwork telling me that they remembered King Arthur and the Knights of Justice. And gosh, when we finally announced those licenses, it was like Christmas for me because I had been working on the books for almost a year by the time we announced that they were coming. And everyone was so excited. It was straight up magical. And with Guinevere, I got to live out like a childhood dream of mine. I got to
Right.
work on my favorite property at the age of 5 as an adult.
Yeah, okay. This would be like me doing Sesame Street. I got it.
It it was so cool. And the teams we put together on the books have such
We're
love
fantastic.
for the property. And I feel like we did a really great job updating them.
Right.
Because if you look at the original cartoons, they are very 90s. The animation
You
is
mean they were
very,
only designed to sell toys?
yeah, I love the King Arthur cartoon because you can tell when a toy is being shown on screen.
We
I
talked
don't
to have you read Box Brown's most recent book?
know.
He wrote a book called The He-Man Effect that's all about the laws changing in the 80s to allow them to um essentially advertise toys on TV and the nostalgia that was created by that and has trickled down from there. All
Oh,
of those shows were completely designed to make us buy toys and then love them forever. And man, did it work.
I
We
just
talked
looked
to
that up. I'm gonna have
yeah.
to read it.
Oh, it's
It's
fantastic. We talked to him right before it came out. It was yeah, it's a fantastic book. Um, Tyler likes to say about it. Tyler sends his regards. He's my co-host, but he has young children. I have young grandchildren. Young grandchildren don't take up the same amount of time as a young child does. So I get to book all the interviews, and when he can make it, he comes, and when he can't, he doesn't. He just says hello. But what he always says about that is like, yeah, I read the book and I felt manipulated, and I went out and bought my He-Man comics anyway.
one of there was this really cool moment where we started working with the Jewel Riders Archive a little bit, which is the main fan group for Princess
Right.
Guinevere and the Jewel Riders, and they allowed us to put some of their collection of toys on loan with the Houston Toy Museum.
Okay.
And I got to go through all of the toys that I never owned. And it was so cool because I just had like the 3 core dolls, and it was really cool to have gotten to work on the book and then be sitting there holding the toys.
Right.
And I love these 2 books. I think the teams did such an incredible job updating them. They feel modern, they feel fresh, and they feel like they're still part of that same world.
Right.
Just,
I mean,
for
I can't speak to whether or
2024.
not they feel like they're part of the world because I don't know the world. But they felt modern, they felt fresh, and they were fun. They were fun. I could see their intended audience adoring them, either the nostalgia intended audience or the, 8 to 14 intended audience. I'm assuming you're shooting for 8 to 14 with these books. If you're shooting for high school, I got news for you.
So these are a lot of our books do tend to read a little older.
Right,
But because we started with the properties where the original demographic was, between 6 and 9,
right,
we did what we were able to do in terms of aging up the stories. The Guinevere story gets very complex in terms of discussing grief and how do you
right,
move on from someone that's
right,
betrayed you, and
right.
how do you find meaning, which I feel like is a very complex thing. I don't
It is.
um
I always remind people not to shortchange kids. You can get
yeah.
complex with them. Uh, and I'm certain that they're high. I mean, I let me rephrase it. They're high school kids that should like these. Um, but like the crowd that would are your bronies, except that they have their My Little Pony, so like they won't like this would be their cheap knockoff, and they wouldn't go for it. But I can see middle school kids adoring it. Um,
They were just so fun to
right.
work on because
No, I, I didn't mean that as a jab. I'm around
I don't
jaded high
know.
school kids all day. And I suddenly went, wait a minute, yeah, YA is normally high school. Oh no.
These were the writer for Guinevere, Jordi Belair, told me that this was that working on Guinevere was her break from working on all of like the more horror or horror things that she worked on normally. So it was nice to take this
Right.
like this trip into something, that's kind of candy colored and fun and optimistic, and everyone's got a talking horse. Um, and yeah, it's just those properties are so special to me, and it was just I could talk
It's
forever about how cool it was to get to work on
no,
them.
well, I mean, and I totally get it because I mean it's one of the reasons Tyler and I had to come to our agreement where I could book whoever I want and he'll come when he can because I just kept booking people because it's like, wait a minute, people I like want to talk to me. I need more of this. There's something great about being able to be involved in any level whatsoever with anything you love, but particularly with things that like you encounter. I mean, it'd be like my earliest memory is seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater. So it'd be like if I got to edit a Star Wars book,
Yeah.
you know, or as I mentioned, if we became involved with Sesame Street, it'd be like my mom likes to talk about Sesame Street was her soap opera. She was very tied to, Maria and Gordon and would
Growing up, my favorite Muppet was Zoe.
okay.
And when that uh Rocco is a rock thing went around, all I could think of was, oh my gosh, my sense of humor makes total sense. If that was my favorite Muppet, suddenly I understand myself on a new level. Where Zoe's insisting that the her pet rock Rocco deserves two cookies and not one. And Elmo's kind of losing it because that's a rock. A rock cannot eat cookies. And Zoe's very insistent that
Sure it
no,
can.
yeah,
I'll
sure it can.
help. I'll help. I'll totally help it eat its cookies.
One
Um,
last thing about King Arthur, I had a really great interaction at TLA, the Texas Library Association conference, with someone who opened up the book and recognized like a design immediately and pointed at it and said, "Oh, I had that growing up, but it never worked." And which
never worked.
I thought was just such a because when you're a kid, you see the toys, and the toys always work in the
Yeah,
commercial
yeah.
every time, and they don't
No,
always work in your
I've been
hands.
there. I've so been there. Um, yeah. No, you got me going through Jordi Belair's other writing credits just because I know her work so much more as a colorist that I had to
We
go.
met on a project at Valiant Entertainment. She colored Britannia.
Okay.
Um, and it was a lot of fun to get to work with her. Because Britannia has a lot of bloodshed. It's set during a war, and she would turn in, scenes of death and magic, and I'd say, "Well, that's so beautiful, thank you," and go about my business. And it was really fun to get to work with her again because she was one
Yeah.
of those people that I just had a good time with.
Well, it's Jordy's on my list of people that I need to talk to at some point too because you see people who are artists and will dabble in writing, or even artists and will like write when they're not writing or not drawing. Um, though there's not a ton. I mean, generally writers write, artists draw. If artists write, they're writing for themselves. Again, like China Clugston Flores, Howard Chaykin, handful of other, or Jeff Lemire all but gave up drawing for a while because he just made so much more money writing 6 books at a time. She's on a really short list of people who color and write occasionally. Uh, and it's just always interesting to me how people get to their different places in books. Um, And how different perspectives wind up affecting how they go about the work.
Yeah.
You see that you see the project at a very different stage if you're the colorist than if you're the inker or the letterer or whatever. Um, so before we talk about some of the great Maverick stuff coming up, take me through your comics biography and not just like you're working in comics biography. Talk about how you came to want to work in comics, how you came to like comics. Drop as many titles as you are in the mood to drop. It's always good to get recommendations for people, and for those people who know comics well, it'll give them a very good view of you as a comics person. You know what you love, that sort of thing.
I I love telling my comics backstory because I think um it's a little weird. It's not
All
it's
of them are
I got into comics in high school.
okay.
I did not read a comic book before my freshman or sophomore year of high school.
So far, you're actually really in the normal wheelhouse for female people in comics.
I read some manga in middle school. I read Magic Knight Rayearth and I read uh The Ring. I really liked it. It was
Yeah.
fun. And sometime in high school, I said to myself, I want to get into comics because nearly every day on the way to school, we drove by a comic book store called Third Planet. And I was fascinated with Third Planet because it looked kind of forbidden to me. I
So
think if
so
you
you grew
Google
up
Third
in
Planet Houston,
Houston? Yeah.
yeah, if you Google Third Planet Houston, it's this squat blue building surrounded
Okay.
by taller buildings.
Right.
And it looks like growing up, it always I wanted to know what the inside looked like so badly. Um, and I sat down and I knew I liked Batman from Batman the Animated Series and from Justice League Unlimited. And so I
Okay.
decided Batman was a really reasonable place to start. Um, and the I read The Long Halloween was what I landed on
It's a
because
good
it was
place to
something
start.
it was something I could buy at Borders.
Right. Right.
And gosh, I loved that book. I my copy of it is falling apart. I have lent it to people. At some point, I must have spilled coffee on it. Um,
Yeah, at this point I have my loaner copies and I have my hardcover that's got the Long Halloween, Dark Fish Victory, and the other Halloween one shots that they did.
I I
So I
loved
get
that.
it.
I loved
Yeah.
that book,
Ah.
and I
It's
started
such a
kind of
mixture of superhero and noir and an actual mystery.
and
You know,
I
Batman's the
just
world's
love
greatest detective, and there's so rarely an actual mystery. It's so great when there's a real mystery in Batman.
I think what got to me was the way Gilda was written. Something about the way that Two-Face's wife was written was
Right.
incredibly appealing to me.
Yeah.
And after I read that, I started looking, I actually went by character that I thought was interesting. So I read a bunch of stuff featuring Scarecrow. I read a bunch of Harley Quinn books. Um, and I read a bunch of Zatanna books. Um,
Zatanna's cool.
she's so cool. And so I read Seven Soldiers of Victory was another book that I read that I really liked. I liked how many moving parts it had. It's there are so many things happening in that book all the time. And this was all in high school. And around my senior year, I picked up Preacher. And
Oh.
oh my gosh, that was so cool.
Oh yes.
I
I've
I
talked to Clem Robbins a couple of times. He lettering Preacher and lettering 100 Bullets are two of his fondest memories.
I read the first trade paperback and I went to my best friend and I said, "You have to read this." And he and I started doing this thing where we would leave at our lunch break, run to Borders, grab the next trade paperback, and I'd read it first, and then he'd read it after me. And at one point we picked up like several trade paperbacks, and I was reading him the backs of them while we were driving. And I said, "Oh no, I don't think you want me to read the back of this one." He goes, "No, I need to know like what are the story beats in these." And there was some major plot reveal that I can't remember, and that was on the back of the trade paperback. And he was so mad. He's like, "Why would you read me that?" I said, "I told you, told you you didn't want me to." And gosh, Preacher just,
I
I
mean,
think it really
Preacher, I
opened
think
my eye as to
grew.
how complex
Yeah.
the world of non-superhero comics was.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think Vertigo did that for a lot of us. Every time I talk to Shelley Bond, I thank her again because I feel like she, Karen Berger, Heidi McDonald, uh, Axel Alonso, like just did so much to shape the way we look at comics today, whether they even realized it or not. You know, the way that they took comics so far away from what we were used to in the United States. Yeah.
yeah. And so that was high school, was really getting into the art form. And I remember reading some Batman trade paperback. I can like see the cover and I can remember stories in it. I do not remember what the actual title of the book was. And I remember seeing there were editors listed. And at the time,
Ah,
I was an editor on the school literary magazine. And I kind of felt like
okay.
I wonder if that's a thing I could do. And I went to college and I kept reading comics throughout college. And when it came to the end of college, I applied to NYU for
Okay.
their editing and publishing program. And that was the start of things professionally for me. I moved to New York. I applied to every single publishing program in the United States for grad school.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, I just went through
There's not a
I
lot
just
of
went
them.
I just went through application period with my students, so I know that you have to pay for applications most
Oh yeah.
places.
It
Try,
was
trying to think of how much you had to spend to apply.
I and I remember I was sitting in the couch in my grandfather's apartment when my NYU acceptance came in, and I'm very dramatic. I gasped.
Okay.
And my aunt and my mom both thought that I was dying. And I was like, no, 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 I got into NYU. I'm done. I don't have to apply to any more schools. I'm done. And so at NYU, I they had a magazine track or they had a book track. And I wasn't really sure where comics fell into that. So I kind of guessed and did 50-50. And yeah, and I was an intern at Valiant Entertainment. They were my second internship. And the story of getting that internship is pretty funny because you had to do two internships to graduate. And I applied for their internship first. They were my top choice, and I never heard back. So I had another internship. And I applied again the next semester, nothing. And so I was I kept applying for it. And it got to the point where I was telling my dad, I was like, I don't know what to do at this point. Like, I really need this internship. And my dad suggested, he said, why don't you figure out the next convention they're going to be at and just go talk to them? And I went to a convention that no longer exists, that was in New York. And I walked up to the Valiant booth and I said, hi, I have applied for your internship a few times. Like, please just reject me. I gave my card to Hunter Goranson, and Hunter
Okay.
looked at it and he goes, I don't run our internship program, but I will hand this to the guy who does, and we'll figure it out. And I explained, like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a comic book editor. I want to learn from you guys. I have applied 6 times, please. And I got accepted.
Nice.
And that internship was a blast. I learned so much, and they hired me out of that internship, and that was the start of my comics career. It's one of it's, and I ended up loving editing as much as I thought I would. I'm very proud of my work. at Valiant, and I'm proud of my work at Mad Cave. Um, yeah, that's
And
my backstory. Was I sent a bunch of emails and begged and pleaded.
so
They found all my applications in a spam folder, by the
in
way.
the spam
That
folder.
they were not it was
See, I
the
I
internet
always worry about
failed
that.
me.
No, I always worry about that because, sometimes I'll even particularly with creators that I know well enough, if I haven't heard back from them, I'll send from my personal email and go, did the 22 panels one come through?
This is a situation where my application was coming through an NYU filter or
Right,
something, and it just
right.
kept going into spam folders. So
Oh,
I'm very grateful that that they were willing to like talk to me and go hunt down the
right,
correct application.
right.
Um, but yeah,
Oh,
I found out after I had been at my internship a few weeks that, oh, we found them. They're
yeah. I mean, I love good filters on my emails, but I'm always worried that like I'll miss something because the algorithm will decide that I didn't want to see it. You know, that's my horror story right there. That's one of the few things that I get really worried about is did I either get emails or send emails that never got to their person because Google said this is a promotion or this is social or
yeah,
doesn't even have to be spam now. It could be so
just
many different categories that people won't look at.
and that's you know I've had the unfortunate spam thing happen twice in my life. Both were me trying to get an internship. Um, with the first incident, the internship had actually closed by the time we figured out what had
Right,
happened, which is
right.
unfortunate.
Well,
But
I
I
mean, what
am
it really is whoever dealt with interns decided that they wanted to do as few interviews as possible. So they just put the word internship into the spam filter. So any emails that came in that had the word internship got kicked to. I mean,
and
can't you just see a bored employee doing that?
I will say that like when I was doing my kind
I
of
can say this now.
exploration,
None of the people at Valiant now were at Valiant then.
I will say that I was doing my exploration in high school. A lot of the stuff that I read was kind of not traditional comics. Like I guess I read a lot of Batman, but another thing I really enjoyed reading was a graphic novel called Scream Queen by Brendan Hay. And it was about a slasher that lived in this janitorial supply closet of a mall.
Okay.
And
I mean, you just did the rare thing. You tossed one out that I don't know. So tell me more. Keep going.
um and there was just a lot of heart in it. And it like I said with the Long Halloween and with Preacher, it expanded my view of what comics could be as a medium. Because this to me felt like it should have been a movie, but it was a comic and it worked as a comic. And I think, now that I've been in this industry, like it's so special to have it as a comic. Um
The write-up at the Simon and Schuster website is really actually really fantastic. Everyone wants to be loved, even the shambling, macabre mockery of a man who brings terror to the town of Rumson and leaves blood in his wake. But when he sets his sights on Molly, beauty queen of Rumson High, she's going to be more than he can handle. The Daily Show writer Brendan Hay brings American Pie meets Friday the 13th sensibility to his horror graphic novel debut. What is with Daily Show writers doing horror graphic novels? The uh, Maniac in New York was by a Daily Show writer too.
I think there's probably something to be said about a like cathartic release in both being scared and and being and laughing,
Yeah,
if I had
that's
to
fair.
guess.
And
Another
and if you think about what they have to make humor about,
Yeah. I also read a book called Life Sucks
oh yeah,
by Jessica Abel,
uh-huh.
Gabriel Soria, and Warren Pleece that I really liked. As I'm thinking about kind of the non-superhero things I read. um, which was this idea of it was a little bit of a rom-com about a teenage vampire.
I'm pretty certain I've read Life Sucks.
Where he
It's
works at a
been a
gas
while.
station or
That
like
sounds
a
right.
7-Eleven, basically.
Well, and I try really hard to catch Jessica Abel's stuff, but Jessica Abel's all over the place and not. Oh, Fantagraphics. Yeah, I've read this. It's been a while.
I think you're the first person I've talked to that's also read this. I read it probably 5 times in high school. I really enjoyed
It's
it.
it's it's being re-released in
Really?
December 3rd, 2024.
Oh, that's tempting.
Bringing back to print in a new edition.
It's
Yeah.
just it was a book that, you know,
Yeah.
was different than the other things I was reading.
Well, and
Um,
that's I mean that's what I love about comics is there's nothing you can't do with a comic, and thankfully we're getting to the point where there's nothing that people haven't tried to do in comics. I mean, I'm certain there is because there's nothing you can't do. I mean, every time I turn around, there's something else. There's a comic that comes out that I goes, how are you going to make that work? And then I read it, I'm like, oh, that's how you're going to make that work.
Amy Chu has when we were at ALA, had these like stickers for the badges that said it's a medium, not a genre.
Ah,
And I
yes,
think that's such an important way of thinking about it.
it really is. But
Because
it's
with Maverick,
also,
yes, I do graphic novels, but there's horror, there's romance, there's
right.
action, fantasy.
Uh,
Um,
but I go a step further. It's like the perfect medium. There is nothing the only limits on comics as a medium are your imagination. There's
yeah.
nothing that you can't convey because you have the words, because you have the pictures, because you have the ability to engage the reader in a way that prose just can't do, moving pictures just can't do, because they have to be an active reader. They have to be bringing the words and the pictures together. Yeah, I can go on a long time about comics. Comic, I think Karen Green at Columbia called herself a uh, uh, comics an evangelist of the comics medium, and I went, yes, that's me. That's what I am.
That's the way I am with Maverick. Our relationship with libraries is really important because some kids don't want to read at all.
Yeah,
Reading is not what they want to do, but I think comics provides a really nice step into reading. Like
yeah. I like to
I
say that
don't view it as an
prose.
interim step, but
Yeah, prose provides a really nice step into comics, is the way I like to think of it. But
it's
um,
which is not to say that comics is like an interim step, but
no, I
there
know.
is a certain feeling of achievement that if you're not a strong reader that comes with finishing a book.
Oh, absolutely.
And comics can provide that. And the medium is just so special because you can see the people on the page.
Yeah,
You know who your characters are.
yeah.
Goodness.
Well, and for people like me, that's particularly important. I cannot make a picture in my head, period. I can't. I hear words. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't see anything in my head. You have those relaxation exercises where you're supposed to close your eyes and picture yourself on a. I close my eyes and I see the back of my eyelids.
Have you seen that it's an image that says imagine an apple and it shows 5 different brains and it's the different ways that different thinkers visualize an apple?
I haven't, but I love this. And
Um,
and for me, I would again hear, not see the word apple.
so if you do imagine an apple in your head, I don't know how scientific this picture is,
Right.
but there's a like a
Yeah,
real
I'm
apple and
totally
a
the five. One, perfectly realistic, as real as seeing. Two, realistic and reasonably vivid. Three, moderately realistic. Four, dim and vague. Five, no image. I only know I am thinking of an apple. Yep, that's me. Way.
I
I
just
think my wife is one and I'm five. It took us a while to figure that out. When we did, it made communication much easier. I mean, not easy, but easier because at least we knew what the problem was.
I just this is for me such a helpful visual because it also talks about like how you communicate with like you said, like with your partner, or
Mhm.
in my case, with a lot of creators.
Right.
um it's a lot of trying to be as detailed as possible.
No, actually, one of my favorite things to ask anybody, but certainly creators, is do you think in words or think in pictures? And it's actually surprising how many writers think in pictures.
I will
And
occasionally go back and ask a writer to they'll write a really lovely description of how a page is
right,
supposed to look, but I can't see it, and so I'll
right,
ask if they can just do a quick sketch
right,
of it. And I think that's helpful because it makes it concrete. So we
right,
have this description, but we also have a drawing. So
right.
we're 100% going to get that spread right,
So
or that
so
splash right.
that's an interesting comment. So are you do you generally work as a go-between between the writers and artists, or do you have them work
We all work
directly?
together.
Okay.
So the way I work is a writer will turn in a script, I'll read it first, and be sure that we're on target, we're getting things done. I'll go through and I'll ask kind of more fine detailed questions. Um, things like, oh, I'm trying to think of a good of a general example. Um, you know, hey, we have a character saying this particular thing, but they said the opposite 10 pages earlier in the last chapter. Is this a change we're making? Things like that. Or, noting that someone's got a mustache in the description. Okay, what kind of mustache? Mustaches come in many shapes, many sizes. Are we doing a handlebar? Are we doing, something that's just kind of bushy and unkempt? Like what's the vibe here? And so that's my first pass. Sometimes the creator has to go in and rewrite things because we've gone off target, or something's just not hitting the way that would be best.
Right.
And it's always a conversation. Everything's always phrased as a, well, how do you feel if we did blah blah blah? How would you feel if we did XYZ?
Right.
And it's a yes or a no. Um, and then it's working together to find kind of a middle ground. And I'll explain why I think this should change. Um, and then after that, it'll go to the artist, and then the artist will work on things.
Right.
So I typically, for each book, have 3 different email chains going.
Okay.
um, one where everyone's on it, one with the writer, and then one with the artist.
Right. No,
Um,
again, I like to talk to creative teams whenever I can get them together. And it's interesting how differently so many of them work. And sometimes even when I've talked to s- some artists with multiple writers that they've worked with and some writers with multiple artists that they work with. And it's like Tom King writes differently for Bilquis Evely that he does for um, Mitch Gerads.
mhm.
Alex DeCampi writes differently for Erica Henderson than she does for um, Tony Parker. Because they've worked, and one of the things I love about Mad Cave is there's a lot of while there's a lot of established talent that I know well, there's also a lot of talent that's coming up. So you probably don't have the same sort of people that have already established relationships with each other from a creative standpoint. Um, but yeah, no, it's always fascinating to me to learn how the communication happens and
I this is I'm gonna tell on myself real quick.
right.
Google Docs has this thing where you can emoji react
Yeah,
to things.
I'm aware.
I am an absolute menace with that feature. Like I'm dropping the little glittery heart emoji on things. I'm, here's like a laugh crying cat.
Right,
Here's, the eyeball emoji. Because when I go through a script, one thing that I think is important is I want the creators to know that, this is specifically what I laughed at in this
right,
script, or how dare you make me feel my own feelings on this page. I think it's important that people know the things that, that are incredible. It's not just me going in there and saying, well, you need to be clearer here and do this, that, and the other. I want I want people to, we're making comics. It should be fun.
what?
I know.
There's that word again. But you said deadlines. You said deadlines earlier, and now you're saying fun. It can only be one or the other.
So what I try and do, I know deadlines sound scary, but because my books are so long, our deadlines are typically really far apart.
Yeah.
Um, and so what I'll do is I try and send a reminder well before the deadline, just as a hey, heads up, like on that team email I mentioned, like, hey, heads up, your next
Check
deadline is this
check on
day,
where
this
people
day, this
are.
day. Yeah.
You mean you don't just wait till 5 days after it was due and go, hey, don't you owe me pages?
I I try really hard to be communicative
Yeah,
with my
I'm
creators. I do send like a lot of memes or a lot of like, hey, I read this article and it made me think about something you said in a script. I
this
Being an
is
editor
this
also contains a little bit of being a friend, which is
right.
really fun.
This is where I have to tell you that like I just it's near the end of the second week of summer school, so I'm in a mildly sarcastic mood. But B, now having talked to well, a couple of your creators, I talked to Jenny Wood, I talked to
I
Richard
love
Hamilton,
Jenny.
right? Having talked to knowing
Richard's great
people,
too.
yeah, knowing people who've worked at Mad Cave who I knew before they worked at Mad Cave. I mean, when I went to C2E2, and this is when we started going hard trying to, I talked to oh, why am I forgetting their names right now? Your PR person and your direct market person, Anna and
Direct,
Maya.
yes.
I talked to Anna and Maya at C2E2. And one of the reasons that I talked to anybody who talked to me from Mad Cave at C2E2 is like it's not something we talk about on the air a lot because we like to be as positive as possible. But I'm acutely aware of how many publishers have problems with communication, paying people, things happening on time, responding to creator emails, all sorts of things. And like, so going into C2E2, one of my goals was we're liking a crap ton of stuff coming out of Mad Cave right now. The last two publishers we've got excited about stopped paying their people. Before we get too excited about Mad Cave, I need to go talk to some people. And I heard words like on time, good rate, direct deposit. And I went, holy shit. You mean they're actually like a responsible business? Um, so
Making
that's
a comic is fun, but making a comic is hard. And
right,
people who do work deserve to be paid for that work.
right. So that's why that's where the sarcasm comes from. Is I'm so aware of how good you guys really are doing, but also um oh, it's not as much the norm for the industry as we would like. And I don't even really think that that's like of malicious intent. I think a lot of that is that a ton of people who run comic companies Um, uh, love comics, um, might even be good at making comics, but don't necessarily have business or social acumen. In
Yeah.
my mind, if you're gonna start a company where you have people that need to be paid in a timely manner, et cetera, the first hire is somebody to do that. Um, but I come from more of a business background. I worked retail and I worked healthcare, and then I got out of the business world and now I work education. And I'm so much happier. So yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that you weren't that I wasn't like trying to take pot shots at you. That it comes from like industry horror stories and the fact that I haven't heard any of them about Mad Cave or Maverick yet. In fact, I've heard quite the opposite, and that is so refreshing.
It makes me really happy that people are like speaking highly of MCS and of Maverick.
Right.
Like I've been the senior editor at Maverick for 2 years. This is my dream job.
Right.
Um, and uh, I try to not think of Maverick as my baby, but
No,
it's
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 okay thinking. I mean,
it's
it
such
is.
what we do at Maverick is so important. And it makes me so happy when I see people like speaking positively about
Right.
Maverick and about the books that we're doing.
Right.
Um,
And again, I'm really used to people speaking positively about like individuals. I mean, you hear people talk about how DC was worth working for when you were working for Shelley and Karen and Paul. Right? But you don't hear people go, "Oh, it's just great working for Marvel." I mean, you'll hear it's great working. It was great working for Axel, or people seem to like to work for Tom Brevoort. Um,
I think what makes comics so unique as an industry is that it's really a people
oh
industry.
yeah,
You're
has to be.
developing individual relationships with editors and with writers and with artists and letters and colorists and PR
Right.
people. And oh my gosh, thank you so much. My cat just meowed behind me. And I think, and that's what's so interesting about going to conventions as an editor too, is I'm there to literally put a face to an email. Like
Right.
we have emailed before, and this is what I look like.
Hmm.
And if you email, Maverick, or you email me, like I am the person that you're emailing.
Hmm.
It is such a people focused industry.
Well,
And it's one of those things where when
absolutely.
you switch companies, you are able to, talk to those people that you
Right.
worked with before and say, hi, we had a good time,
Right.
several years ago. Do you want to do another thing?
Right. Right. No, I totally agree. I've said it, and obviously there are counterexamples, just like there always are. But it's an industry that's particularly hard to hide in if you're a jerk, um, because you have too many people you have to work with, or even if you're like an independent cartoonist, that means you're gonna have to go out and hand sell. So um, and it's weird because we're also an industry where none of us have social skills. That's why we got into the industry, but we seem to have social skills with each other. And it's not quite none of us. There are a handful of people in this industry that have fantastic social skills, and I'm so jealous of them.
I love conventions and getting to talk to people
Yeah.
and you know tell them about things that they did that I enjoyed, or talk to them about oh, here are my coworkers, have you worked with any of them? And
Right.
it's always so fun to me when someone will respond with just sheer joy
Yeah.
about one of my coworkers. I had a conversation with a writer at Comic Palooza who talked about working with my fellow senior editor James Emmett, and this writer was just aglow talking about how fun James was to work with, and it made me so happy. He's like, "That's my friend, that's my coworker,"
Right.
like, and you're saying nice things about him.
I mean, I'm always blown away at how much, whether it's at cons on this podcast, Everywhere I go, people want to tell you about the great people that they've talked to. Uh, oh, you should go talk to this person. Oh, have you seen this person's work? This person does this really well. It's a joy to be a part of. Uh, let's well, first I have to talk about my favorite Maverick book, and I've talked to Paul already, but
I'm
Voyage de,
curious.
Voyage de Gourmet. I
Oh my
love
gosh.
this book. Um, how fun was it to see this one coming
It
in? And
was
and do
really
you
fun.
and have you ever had peanut butter on pizza?
No. I've had peanut butter on ice cream.
Yeah.
That I do enjoy. Not I don't know that I've done peanut. I
Well,
have
I mean, I think peanut butter on ice cream is not actually really much of a stretch. There's peanut butter ice cream out there.
I went to camp for 15 years, and a big tradition was like taking a big scoop of peanut butter and having it with the ice cream you were having.
Yeah,
And some
yeah.
of them made sense, like the chocolate ice cream, the vanilla ice cream. And then every once in a while, I would see someone do a big scoop of peanut butter on rainbow sherbet. And I was like,
I can see that. I can see that. I mean, it makes more sense on a strawberry because it's like a peanut butter and jelly
yeah,
sandwich.
that
But
I get. But like
I can see it.
lime,
No, I can see it. I can see it. But no,
um,
this book made me try peanut butter on pizza, and it
and
works.
oh,
It works.
so this was a book that when I came on, part of it was already done.
Yeah.
Um, and it was so unique to work on and so fun because I love reality TV. Um,
I'm sorry, but okay.
and this was working on reality TV in a book form, and I got to learn about different food, and I got to talk to Paul Tobin a
Paul's
bunch
amazing.
and learned that my grandfather was Paul's dentist, which is the smallest world thing I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
We were talking, and he mentioned growing up in Iowa. And the thing
Okay.
about and my family's from Iowa. And the thing about
Where in
Iowa,
Iowa?
exactly. I said, where in Iowa? And he said, or no, he asked me where in Iowa. And I said, oh, outside of Mason City, but it's a small town. You probably never heard of it, Charles City. And he said, Lauren, you're not going to believe it, but I'm from Floyd, which is the next town over, and I
Over.
graduated from Charles City High School. And then that turned into the two of us trying to figure out who knew each other.
Of
How could
course.
we get there? And he said, I went to the dentist in Charles City. Maybe it was your grandfather. And he called his mom and was like, do you remember my dentist? And she responded, Dr. Hitzhusen. Of course, I remember Dr. Hitzhusen. And as it turns out, our aunts were friends back in the day. I called my aunt, and my aunt was like, of course, I have a picture of, me and her together. It's framed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what do you mean we know like our families literally know each other?
Right.
And now we're working on this book together. It was just the smallest world thing. I, I, I know that's irrelevant to Voyage de Gourmet, but it's one
No,
of my
it's
favorite
this is
stories.
what we do on this podcast. We go wherever it takes us. One of the reasons comics are amazing is they spark conversations. They take
It
us on
was
journeys.
it was
This
just
one
so
took us
funny
to small town Iowa.
because I called my parents and they were
I mean, I have to
cracking
ask because
up.
I grew up in Galena, which is across the Mississippi from Dubuque.
Okay,
So, you know, you're a
I am
different area, but I know parts of Iowa.
yeah,
So,
but you get the description of
oh
you
yeah.
you say the closest big city,
Hmm.
and Mason City is not exactly a like a big city. Um, but working on Voyage to Gourmet was just cool. There were all I think there's a lot of really beautiful things that happen in that book in terms of friendship and personal growth. A thing I look for in a Maverick book is how is the main character different at the end of the book? Have they taken a really big step into becoming the adult they want to be? And I think Voyage to Gourmet is a great example of that because our main character learns a ton of humility, which is it's a huge lesson. It's an uncomfortable thing to learn.
Right. Right. And I mean, that's something that I've noticed in your I mean, as a teacher, I'm always looking for coming of age stories. I'm always looking for stories with growth and lessons where the lessons are hidden enough that like they don't feel like they're being preached to. Um,
Have you read Confetti Realms yet?
I have not.
So Confetti Realms is kind of Tim Burton-y a little bit.
Okay.
And I think it's
Oh, Nadia Shamas.
yes. And it's got a really unique lesson on how kind of your discussion of how, not lesson, discussion about how your mental health struggles can impact the people around you.
Oh, it's just been high
Um,
on my list.
and the art in it is so cool. It's so cool. There are a bunch of kind of anthropomorphic animals. There's a frog with a knife that everyone in our office is obsessed with. His name is Bitter Hops. We all love Bitter Hops, and we all love Frog the dog from Voyage de Gourmet. And Confetti Realms is so special. It's a group of friends that they're drinking in a graveyard. They fall into another dimension where they have to collect teeth in order to pay for their way home. So it's a
All
little
right.
spooky, but not I wouldn't necessarily call it horror.
No,
Um,
that's it looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. It
when
like
you talk about kind of jaded high schoolers, I think of myself. I was trying to be so cool and edgy all the time. And I think this book would have really appealed to me in high school because it feels a little Tim Burton-y. It feels a little spooky.
well, and I mean, you had me at mental health and how it affects others. Which is admittedly the thing that I like to teach and have people learn after they've figured out how it affects themselves.
Yeah.
But it is still like once you're good at taking care of yourself, you need to like at least be aware of when taking care of yourself could have an adverse reaction on someone else, or when not taking care of yourself could have an adverse reaction on someone else. So yeah, no, it and I love Nadia Shamas. She did Squire. Yeah,
Yeah.
Squire is my favorite.
This Confetti Realms is just, it's really touching and it's got some beautiful art in it and incredible characters. And as we're talking about the kind of the core lessons and the core kind of how do you grow in Maverick books, I think that one's a really great example of growth.
Yeah, no, that it's got a Blue Monday vibe to it. Some of the I'm just looking at pages now.
It's really fun.
I have to be careful because when I stop talking and you stop talking, that means we have dead air.
I can talk about the other books. I can talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
I'm looking behind me at my pile of
Well, you said that you wanted to make certain, and I love Jeremy Whitley's work, so let's talk navigating with you.
navigating with you is really, really cool.
This is
Jeremy is
way been on my radar,
uh
and Jeremy's on my radar too. I keep meaning to reach out and
oh,
track
please
him
do.
down again.
Jeremy's so fun to
Well,
talk to.
if you can send anybody in you're an editor, so you're one of the handful of people that I'm willing to tell, just send them my direction. I always feel bad asking artists to get me in touch with, I really feel bad asking artists to get me in touch with writers because artists get the bum rap in this business. Um, I'm a little bit more comfortable asking writers to get me in touch with artists, but I never want somebody to think that I'm talking to them just so I can talk to somebody else. But your job is to sell the book. So send anybody my direction.
So, navigating with you is a story about two girls who discovered that they both read the same first volume of a manga, but neither of them finished the series. So it's the two of them running around looking for volumes of this out of print book.
Nice.
And what's really unique about the book is that it bounces between these two girls going on a journey and falling in love. And then also there are pages that are of the actual manga that they're
Manga.
reading. And
Right.
so the manga itself progresses their story and um, the the opposite is true as well. And it's really cohesive and fun and romantic. Um, and also has great discussion of food.
I mean, food is important.
And the same artist did both sections.
Okay.
And I think that really speaks to Cassio's flexibility and talent as an artist. Um,
Casio, is it Ribeiro?
yes.
Hey, hey, I got it right.
And it's it's a beautiful story. I'm so excited for it. I love the cover
I do too. I'm
so
looking at the cover right
much.
now. This is due out August 6th.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this is one that Tyler and I had already. We finally started looking at like the catalog in advance so that we can tell people about books in time to order them rather than waiting for them to come out. And this is one that caught both of our attention.
I when that cover came in, I was so excited. Um, it was something that, Jeremy and I and Cassie, we all, the three of us all kind of worked together on what we felt the best cover of this book was.
Yeah, no, this is
And
a
when that
fantastic
came
cover.
in, I was just over the moon.
Yeah.
It's and I love the logo too. There's a little heart on
Right.
it. Um, and I think it's a book that's great for fans of romance, fans of slice of life, and fans of hard to find media, which I feel like is a very narrow audience. But have you ever been
It is,
frustrated by?
but I feel like if you made a Venn diagram that had those, the entire Venn diagram would be inside of comics fans. So I mean, at
Yeah.
least
And the artwork in it is beautiful, and it goes in, there's depths in that book kind of emotionally that are just very well written. Um, and Jeremy's so fun to work with. He
yeah,
is
no,
he
I mean,
is so funny.
I've been a fan since Prince lives, um, which we won't talk about the publisher there because that's one of the publishers that just um, but yeah, no, he writes fascinating books. Um, so yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
It's
Another, go
it's
ahead.
just so fun. I know I've said that a million times, but it's one of those books where I
Com
was working on it.
comics should be fun.
It should be fun.
I mean,
It's
they're
one of
allowed to
those
be
books
other
where I was
things
annoyed that
too.
I couldn't talk about it because
Right.
art would come in and I would, say, oh, like I can't wait for the rest of the world to see this. I'm sitting here waiting for everyone to, catch up. And so I can talk about how great this page is.
That's always I recently I, and I'd only seen a handful of pages, but I'm friends with Marcus Kwame Anderson, and um, this book's finally been announced. But in fact, 2 years to the day after he told me that he and David Walker were working on their new book, Big Jim and the White Boy, is when it was finally announced. So for 2 years, I knew about this fantastic project. I was occasionally seeing things and couldn't say anything.
It's so hard. I think that's honestly the most
the only
frustrating part of my job is keeping secret.
no, see, the only and you probably hopefully you don't have to deal with this very often, but the only thing that's worse is when you get to see that thing and then it falls through. I mean, one of the reasons that I've become, I'm good friends with a number of creators at this point. So every once in a while I'll get sent that thing that's like barely a thing yet. One of the best single issues of comics I have ever read is unlikely to ever get published because the entire publisher fell apart.
Oh.
The artist had to move on. The writer has 1,000 other things that are doing. I'm not certain anybody knows where the rights are right now. Who,
For
you
me,
know,
it's a lot of it takes like over a year
Yeah.
sometimes for me to do a book. And so
Yeah.
tack on time for marketing and
Right.
printing. And I am sitting there on knowledge of there's this one really cool page that I would like to show one of my friends, and I can't. I'm just gonna have to wait a year.
Right.
Um, and it's so hard to sit on that.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Um, you know, yeah, it's and you know, actually that just you just brought up something that's like it's one of the huge differences between um graphic original graphic novel publishing and floppy comic publishing is you have a much longer lead time with good reason. Um, because it takes a long time to put one of these things together, and when it's going to take a long time anyway, you going to also want to build in leeway time. You know, you
Yeah.
want to it's going to take 16 months anyway. You might as well make it 24 months in case somebody's mom gets sick or kid has troubles or whatever. You know, there's so many legitimate reasons for something to fall behind. I mean, obviously you avoid that, but you know what I mean. Um,
And I'm
yeah,
really grateful like to my creators that tell me when things are going on like
yeah.
that because it
But
can be hard to
most
have
editors
those
I know, it's
conversations.
like, please just call me.
Yeah, and
The
I
sooner I know, the more we can do.
it's when I send out schedules, I have this same little speech where I say, like, I've made sure that you're not turning anything on a weekend, and I've made sure you're not turning anything on a holiday that I could find. But I have accidentally scheduled you something the week of your birthday or an anniversary, or you're going to be on vacation. Like, please tell me. We
Right,
can move it. I don't
right,
want you to have to be stressing about a deadline over
right,
your birthday.
right,
And it's uh, and I'm very grateful for my creators that are comfortable enough to tell me if there is something that comes up because like I want to work with you.
right,
I don't want the deadlines that I make. I know we said deadlines scary, but I I want things to be fun. I want things
right.
to this to be like a positive experience. And
Well, and for the
even
most
if it's
part,
as simple
it's
as something has come up, I
right,
need another day, that's
right,
fine.
right. Um, no, and again, you know, there's so many different because on a monthly, that's a challenge.
But here I
Um,
can, I can bake it into
right.
to
You
later
can bake it in.
on.
Well,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, I mentioned Shelley because Shelley's just my favorite editor. Shelley Bond is an amazing woman. One of the things that she talks about even with monthlies is like if she knows an artist takes 6 weeks to do their best work or 7 weeks to do their best work, she just bakes that into the scheduling. She'll have fill-in issues or she'll have one shot. You know, I mean, she brought up specifically J.H. Williams on Sandman, and everybody's like, oh, you know, he's always late, blah blah blah. And she's like, which is how they looked at it. I called them up and I said, hey, how long does it take you to just no, don't bullshit me, just tell me how long. And he said this, and I'm like, okay, so what I'll do is you start working on this arc and I'm going to have a one shot story here and I'm going to have a one shot story here and I'm going to have a one shot story there and then you'll be able to work on your schedule that you're comfortable with and the book will keep coming out month by month. I mean, Tom King talked the same about his Batman run. The entire reason it had its nightmare sequence, which was a series of one shots, was it was coming out bi-weekly and they had like three or four artists that make it a little bit easier, but they were all having to do, 3 issues at a time, 6 issues at a time, whatnot. So he scheduled in six issues, so 3 months where none of the regular artists had to have stuff done. 3 months where they could get ahead on the next arc or their
I think
next
and
arcs, you know.
was that your cat or
So
my cat that made
I
that
don't
noise?
know. Who knows?
um I think that so I don't quite have the advantage of being able to do like a
No,
fill-in thing,
right.
but I, it's a conversation about this is a long book.
Right.
Like you and I are doing essentially, 5 to 10 issues of a comic here.
Right.
And what can I do to help you from getting burnt out? And I
Well,
always ask, what is a
yeah.
comfortable pace for you to do 20 pages? Because
Right.
I look at my books in, 20-page chunks.
Okay.
And that's the way I approach it. Because I don't want anyone to get injured or, sick or
Well, I mean, you should give them all a copy of Creator Wilberg's book. She actually, Creator Wilberg is fantastic. She created a role for herself as the artist in residence at, I think, NYU Medical School.
Mhm.
But she wrote a book, wrote and drew a book called Draw Stronger: Self-Care for Cartoonists and Visual Artists.
I love that. I all the stretches that I do on my hands are fiber arts stretches, so things that you would do to prep for a lot of knitting or a lot of crochet.
Okay.
Um, and I found that to be helpful for me.
There you go. But here, it's from Uncivilized Books. I'm a big fan of this book. I got it from my wife. My wife's an art teacher. But also, I creator's married to Bob Sikoriak, who has done amazing comic work himself, um, and is a regular on the show. So I like to pump their stuff. I'm dropping it
I'm,
into the chat for you.
I am putting the He-Man effect
Oh yeah.
on my wish list.
Oh, it's so good.
I'll do that too. Don't want to
But
make dead air, but I need to write these things down or else they're gonna fall out of my head.
see, that's the sort of thing that I do sometimes. You could do your own podcast.
But navigating with you is really cool. I'm so glad the rest of the world is gonna get to see these two girls.
Well,
Um,
talk to me now about, and this one's coming out next to or next today's Wednesday.
Today
No,
is Wednesday the 12th.
yeah. So next Wednesday, um, of her own design,
Yeah, I got my
Nicole
comp in.
Andelfinger. Actually, I'm gonna let you pronounce all the names.
Yes, so I will read the entire lineup. Written by Bertie Willis and Nicole Andelfinger. Art by Vash Taylor, Fiona Marchbank, Laurent Rice, Ava Cabrera, Rowan McCall, Lyndon Cahill. Art by Seda Timofonte.
How do you have that many different artists in the book?
So
Are we doing like different
yeah,
parts
we're
or
jumping to different portals in this
okay.
book.
Okay.
So the book is about Bree, and Bree is having writer's block and also a variety of personal problems. And she's in a fight with her frenemy. She's got a massive crush on a girl at school and, makes a fool of herself. And she finds a lot of comfort in writing. She buys herself a fancy set of inks and like a quill at a super mysterious bookstore and discovers that everything she writes down becomes reality. And so she's constantly transported into the stories she's writing. So as we're jumping from reality to a new story, we get a new art style. And then outside of that, the book goes from black and white to color in reality. So by the end of the book, her reality is in full color.
Okay.
So I know this, like, we start with black and white, and then we go into the first section that is in color. And it's so cool to see the colors appearing, and each artist has such a unique style that they bring to it that I think really matches their little section. And I think it's relatable because like I wrote a lot when I was in high school. I struggled with writer's block, and I think I would have found this very relatable. The idea of getting around writer's block this way.
I will take anything to get around writer's block. No, this
It's
this looks like a cool book.
it
Um,
is really cool. It's fun to flip through. Um, just with all of the different art styles and uh because we had so many artists working simultaneously, one artist came in and asked for a reference for a character, and I said, I don't know that that character has been drawn as a human yet, but I have art of them as a horse. Is that helpful? And um, we got it sorted, but it was really funny. That's like, I'm so sorry. The only reference I can offer you is a horse. Um, and it's so unique visually, and I know that the listeners can't see it, but the cover is very yellow and is just
yeah,
very striking. And I know, don't judge a book by its cover, but I think I'm really excited with how much this is
it,
going to stand out on
it's it's
shelves.
it's it's got some pink there too. I don't know
Yeah.
how that happened.
I wonder how that happened. How could that have happened? Um,
Yeah, no, this looks like a very cool book as well. I I read so many comics that I don't always get excited about books that I don't know any creators in them, just because that's the easiest way to know whether I'm gonna like it.
yeah.
But at the same time, I host a podcast, so I wanna like try. So I read a lot of descriptions, and this was definitely one that between the art and the description, it's like, yeah, I know none of these people. But I'll be
And
reading this anyway.
this was so fun to work with so many people that all work so differently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, welcome
And
to comics.
and
I
you
mean,
know,
you've been around for a while, so you should know this.
well, I mean, I'm used to them being all on different projects
Right.
where I know that,
That's true.
on
That's true.
project A, that team works that way. On project B, that team works that way. But this was a project where everyone had a different way that they worked.
Go read
And
Zach Kaplan's Beyond Real. It's on issue 4 at Vault Comics. It's similar with the number of different artists doing different things, only in a single issue series. So sometimes there are as many as 3 different artists in the
I
same
got to work
20 page book.
on two different books at Valiant that did something like that.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I don't remember the title of one of them, but we had to call in another artist to draw like animals, a
Okay.
specific kind of cartoony style animal. And then there's an issue of Bloodshot that features a character called Blood Squirt that's drawn by a totally different artist.
Okay.
Um,
See, Zach's deals with creativity and like uh simulation theory. So the idea is that we're a simulation inside a simulation inside a simulation inside a simulation, and as the main character works through the different levels, each level is drawn by a different artist.
so I wanted to show you the what I was talking
Oh,
about black and white to color, but like so here's how the book opens, and then I'm
my
not going to show you
goodness.
any of like the like portal things, but then here's towards the middle where
I
we've
love
got
it.
a little bit of pink, and then by the end we're in full
Full
color.
color. I love it. I love it. I love
It's
it.
it's such a cool concept, and it was one of those things that was really a kind of a challenge because it was, well, what do you mean about color fading in? And so we talked about the different ways that we could balance that and what we wanted that first color highlight to be. And then when she came back, how much more color?
Is it the same colorist for the whole book or
No.
no? So just trying to make it even harder on yourself.
It was we were putting the team together, and we ended up with an additional colorist on this section. And it was really cool. Like I
No,
think this is a book that I think about where I
I
experienced so much, and I'm so excited it's going to be out there.
it's
It's
likely
so
to be one of my
charming.
first reads next week. Um,
It's
graphic novels don't often make the top of my pile on a Wednesday, but it was near the top of my pile before you started selling it to me, and now I'm sold.
This is why I
Um,
like going to conventions. This is the way I
oh
behave
yeah.
at the Mad Cave booth.
I literally have a column coming up in the inaugural issue of American Nature Presents, the Santos Sisters spin-off culture magazine. It's got black and white cartoons and columns called Sell Me Something You Love.
I love
um,
that.
yeah, I didn't even come up with the title. They came up with it based on what I wrote, and I loved it, so we're rolling with it. So, as we're starting to run up against my time constraints, which is
I know you wanted
rare,
to talk about I'm a Mess.
that's exactly where I was going to go. Is I need you to tell me all about I'm a Mess, a guide to a messy life from, I'm going to let you pronounce the name here.
Um, Give me a second to pull up my um I've actually never said the oh my gosh. Sorry.
Eddie again.
I've never pronounced the name. This is a name I've only read, but I believe it's Einat.
That sounds right.
Um, and what's unique about this is Maverick's first nonfiction.
Okay.
And it's not quite self-help, but
Right.
it's also not quite an autobiography. It exists somewhere between them where it's interspersed with stories about this is what it's like to be a messy person. Coupled with here are some very practical tips to make your space less messy, with a sprinkling of there's a little bit of a discussion of jealousy of the people who have their life together.
I'm
Um,
digging it.
that I think it's very unique because I think that's a really common thing to feel is looking at other people and going, you have your life together.
Oh yeah. And
I
then
I
eventually you
want that.
realize that no, they don't. You're seeing the side that they do.
Yes.
And
And
they're
so
equally jealous of you because they're seeing the side of your life that's together that you don't even realize is together.
there
Can
is
you tell I spend a lot of time in therapy?
there's so much discussion of, you know, just little ways to reorganize your life and this kind of joking history of messiness in there. And it's fun. It's also something probably closer to a visual journal than a traditional comic, where the pages actually have a fair amount of prose on them that goes with the illustrations. And the prose becomes a character in and of itself as it moves throughout the page.
Fantastic. And that one is to, I know that that was just on, or no, it's final order cutoff, I think, coming up
Yes,
this
and it
coming
comes out in
Monday,
July.
July 9th. I'm very much looking forward to this book.
It's
Um,
it's really unique. I
well,
it's been a long time since I've read something like this.
and I'm going to be short on this, and just because I have a family thing that I want to jump to in a few minutes. I know I have a life outside the podcast. I didn't know either. Every once in a while. Um, but you did mention when I was talking to you before we started recording that this is a book that came to you um full. So talk to me about the difference between when Maverick buys a book that's out there and Maverick puts a book together.
So when we put a book together, it's, you know, I'm with it since day one.
Right,
I'm often involved in the casting of the book, sometimes even in the inception of the story.
right.
And I'm there when everything gets turned in, from character designs to layouts to, you know, choosing the font. Um, and with this, we received a completed translated book, and my job was to go through and be sure that, you know, the you know, do some light editorial on the translation and make sure that the file we had all the pages in order. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but this is a
No.
long book.
Oh no,
And so
no. That
going through and
definitely
reading everything.
I mean, particularly because I mean, one of the roles that I haven't had anybody on yet that does it that I'd love to talk to is a translator because there's so much that I mean, I'm baffled by multilingual people to begin with, because it's not a skill I have at all. But I know just enough about language to know that. I mean, my favorite version, or my favorite book is The Little Prince.
Mhm.
Um, and I love the original Catherine Woods translation that I have to believe was Exupery's preferred translation because he was alive when it happened and he was bilingual. So
Yeah.
like he had to approve it. But there have been a few times since it went public domain that's like, oh, here's the more accurate. And the first time I picked one up, I'm like, you sucked all of the life out of it. I don't care if it's maybe it's more word accurate, but like, where's the whimsy? Where's the, I really don't.
You should talk to Stephanie, who works at Paper Cuts. She does a lot of translations and works a lot with translators. And she'll occasionally talk about finding the right word because the translated word doesn't quite work.
You might have to hook us up. Um,
And
but I'm
there
I'm
were a few
making a
moments
note to
in
myself.
this book where a word was directly translated, except
Right,
the English word was not like a normal word. So,
right.
not necessarily a normal word, but a word that would come up in common speech. So I'd have to go back and figure out what the original word was. And then, okay, is there something close to
Right.
this as a concept?
Right. No, I remember when Amanda Gorman's book was getting translated into, I forget which language, but there was an uproar because while it was a young poet doing the translation, it wasn't a black poet, and it was Gorman saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! There aren't a ton of black people in that country." And translating poetry is hard, and I love this poet. I want them to translate because just having my cultural background doesn't give you my, if there was a black Dutch poet, sure, we'd go with that, but I don't know a black Dutch poet.
I think it comes back so much like with translation,
Right,
and we talked about communication earlier on, and so much of comics is communicating ideas.
right.
And when you throw translation in there, that's another layer of
Oh yeah.
communication.
I mean, it's again, I'm a poetry guy as well, and like I love Wisława Szymborska. She was, I want to say, Polish poet, won the Nobel Prize, and it's when I was in high school, so I want to say 97. Um, and there's such a difference between the translations. Sometimes you'll read the same poem, it'll feel completely different. You
I
know.
we did a translation of hang on. Before I talk, remember how I said I was gonna have to Google
Oh
things?
yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna have to make sure that this book happened already. Uh, before I make a fool of myself. Um, okay, I think it came out. So I'm good. Um, and we did paper planes in French.
Okay.
And I went through the French version of the book. I don't speak French. I took 6 years of Latin in
Okay.
school. And I was so delighted because one of the characters wears a shirt that has a pun on it in English. And I saw the pun rewritten so it made sense in French. And I
Right.
was over the moon with
Yeah.
it. I was like, this is so great because like
Which
they
is the
found the
crazy
right
type of
words to
right.
convey the thing.
Right. Which is the crazy type of thing that you have to come up with to 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 do a good translation. And I wish that there was so much more of it because not just in comics, in all media, there's masterful work all over the world that's just not accessible to the people that don't speak the
Yeah.
language. I mean, look at how much manga we do get here and understand that it represents what, less than 10% of what's produced
Yeah.
in Japan. You know? Um, so all right. My favorite question to ask anybody and everybody, tell me a book or books. I don't want you to feel limited. Comics preferably, but you're not required. Um, that you love, that you adore, that not enough other people have read, and it really frustrates you because you need more people to talk to about
Um, so we're gonna go with a non-comic book
it. Okay.
first, and then I will cycle back to a comic.
Okay.
Um, it is a book called How to Become King. Um, that is by Jan Terlouw. And it's originally, I think the original language is Dutch.
Okay.
Um, and it is a kind of a retelling of the labors of Hercules, but
Okay.
modern. And modern as in, like, I think the book came out in the 70s. Um, and
Yeah, I think part of the problem with people reading this is it looks like
it's
all
also
of the versions.
super out of print.
Yeah, all of the versions I'm finding are not coming cheap.
I have a copy of it. It was a Christmas gift. I'm hoping that they will do a reprint of it. If your local library has it, I read mine in a
Okay.
library.
Okay.
And it's the Dutch translation is Koning van Katoren. And apparently there's a movie of it. I've never seen the movie, but the book is fantastic.
I'm looking at
Um,
the
are
cover
you looking
here
at the
is
pink cover?
I am.
I
It's a very
really
comic-like cover.
I really love the outfits
Yeah.
on that cover because you can tell that book was written in the 70s when you look
For
at
for
it.
for for only $75, mega
Yeah.
rare first edition damaged.
Oh, mine is
X
an
X
awful
library
shape.
copy X library copy with stamps, water damage, and a few torn pages for
Yeah,
only $75.
it's look, I know that's a risky recommendation to be like, go
No,
locate this
I'm all
obscure
for that
Dutch
kind of
fairy tale.
right. I'm all
Um,
for that kind of recommendation.
I would love for them to do a reprint of this so that I can have it like a nice copy of it because
Right.
mine's in such awful shape. So that's my first recommendation. And then I'm like literally looking behind me at my comics to come up with.
Hey, you can get a very good copy from Abe Books for only $350.
Oh my God. So sorry for recommending world's most expensive book.
Well, I mean, we did find the bookshop Apocalypse had it for $75.
Oh my gosh. I was obsessed with this book in the fourth or fifth grade. I read it a million times. I thought it was so cool. And then you find out that the author has like 4 PhDs and a he's something crazy.
Right.
He is he's a member of the Senates of the Netherlands and has held a million different positions. I'm like, you are the busiest person I've ever seen
Yeah, no,
at this
this
point.
definitely looks like a cool book.
And for
So you
comics, I
sold me. I'm gonna be like looking at my libraries. This is where WorldCat is really
yeah,
valuable. Hey, Chicago State University has a copy.
it's what I like
Northeastern
about it is
Illinois University, Deerfield Public School District.
it just pops up in school districts. I found mine at my lower school library.
Yeah.
Um, so that's my like obscure prose book. And then I recently read I read Squad.
Oh, so good. You're the second one to recommend that. That was a Sarah Gailey recommendation as well.
It's Maggie Caputa Hall and Lisa Sturl, and it's great. If you
Yeah,
ever felt like
it
what Mean
is.
Girls
I
needed was
yes.
werewolves, which was
Yes.
a thing that I didn't think I wanted until I had
Right.
it in front of
Right.
me. And
Right.
the
No,
characters are so
it works.
complex,
Totally works.
and it's just a good time.
It's a
Um,
fantastic, fantastic book.
I really loved it. Um, I'm not normally a werewolf person, but I
I
really enjoyed
mean,
this one.
but uh, werewolves in comics have a great um great place. I mean, they made it into the Wortham hearings where they called it werewolfism and you mean lycanthropy? um and my favorite thing is Monsters just had book 2 come out. So, I mean,
If you end
werewolves
up
in
if you
comics
end
are
up
great.
reading How to Become King, I really want to know your thoughts on it because it talks a lot
It
about the dangers of nuclear war and what are we going to do with pollution. Um,
it's officially on my list now.
and I
Um,
don't think it's very long. It's like
a-
120 pages or
and and
150.
I have librarian friends, etc. So, um,
You will hopefully not have to spend 75 to $300 on a copy of this obscure out of print
not
book.
unless I wind up loving it. If I wind up loving it, that becomes a different thing.
It was a book that
Um,
I had to have a copy of because it stayed in my head
I get
as
that.
a little fifth grader.
I get that. I've had books like that. I have occasionally spent too much on books like that because I decide, yeah, 128 pages. It's actually listed as a children's story.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's probably middle grade.
okay.
Um, and I think it was interesting to me because when I read it as a kid, I read it for the adventure part of it. And as an adult, I was sitting there going, oh, this is actually like very complex. How is this like 17-year-old boy going to solve every problem on the face of the earth? All of them. And I was I look at the author's Wikipedia page a lot because I'm fascinated with his life. And it's one of those things like, oh, you were the person meant to write this book.
Yeah, it does. I mean, his basic Jan Cornelis Turlo is a retired Dutch politician, physicist, and author. Member of the Democrats' 66 Party, he served as Deputy Prime Minister of the Netherlands from 1981 to 82 under Prime Minister Dries van Ocht. It's just,
He went to MIT. He's
I mean,
got
physicists. When you hear politician and physicist, I mean, this is how anytime anybody says anything about Mexico being somehow more backward than us, I need to remind you that the new president of Mexico is not only a woman, is Jewish, and a PhD in climate science.
yeah.
Our candidates are a career politician who I love, but he's a career politician and really old, and, an equally old with dementia. I worked in dementia for 10 years. I am somewhat qualified to diagnose with dementia. Um, Former reality TV star, and I know how much you like your reality TV, but I don't think that you generally watch it and go, "That's who I want to be my next president."
I did not ever watch his show. 100% of my
I
viewing is
don't
all
blame you.
like watch a lot of Below Deck.
I don't even know what that
It's
is.
about yachts.
Okay. Okay. See, that doesn't actually seem a lot better.
Like the people
It's
that
about
work on the
yachts.
boats. It's about the people that like work on the boats. I'm fascinated by the kitchens on these
Okay.
boats because they're all designed to have everything stay level as the boat is rocking,
Okay. Okay.
which I think is amazing.
I mean, I watched Below Decks too, the Star Trek one. It's
I've
funny.
also seen that. That one's good too.
Yeah, it's funny. So uh Lauren, it's been a blast. we will definitely have to have you back. Please, please, if you enjoyed yourself, spread it among all of your friends at Mad Cave, because I am blown away by what you guys are doing there right
Thank
now.
you.
And I would love to hear more about it, just because we examine, explore, and elevate the medium of comics. So when there are people doing it well, I like to pick into it as much as possible, both so I can know about it, but also so to create this artifact of that people to go, oh, this is how you run a good comic company. Um, I mean, maybe if they find us on the internet someday, the internet's forever, they tell me. I don't know if I believe them, but so it's been a blast. Um, I can't wait to see this next round of books. I'll definitely be reading one next Wednesday. Is sure, I took it off my
Yeah,
screen.
it's of her own
Next Wednesday
design.
is of her own design. Um, and you sold me. I'm going to be looking for How to Become King. Um, both in libraries and when I'm digging through old bookstores,
It
because
might be a book
that's really
that
like the
like a
best way to
library would
find one.
sell. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so many times where it's like that $350 book you find for $1 somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's really only $350 if you can find the person willing to pay $350 for it. And the reason that there are people willing to spend $350 on it is there aren't many people willing to like give it up at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
feel like
that
there's a
means
group
that
of
there's
very committed How to Become King fans, and we all have
right.
copies,
Well,
and we
and
just have set up really high
no,
prices
I
on
mean
it.
it's like, and sometimes that means that there winds up being high prices. I remember one of the comics I looked hardest for in my life before getting it was um Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz did a Marvel graphic novel when they had the Marvel graphic novels. It was Daredevil Love and War, and it's fantastic. And I found it online once for $100, and I was like 17, so I wasn't paying $100 for a 64-page comic. Even 96, I forget how many pages it was or is. But then I finally came across it in a shop, and it was $10 because $10 was the list price for it. $10, it wasn't considered worth more. It's just that nobody was selling their copies.
Yeah.
You never see Richard Stark books in the mystery section at half price books.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain books that when people get their copies, they might give them away, but they're not selling them. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
And they're certainly not putting them up and selling them to the highest bidder very often. It's like, no, this needs to. I mean, I got a massive amount of the original Love and Rockets hardcover graphic novels, like before the library editions that they did, the original ones, from JHU on Staten Island at I think 10% off of face value. He could have sold those to me at way more than that. But he
Yeah.
literally had them in a box in the back room waiting for the right person to sell them to. So Lauren, it's been a blast. I'm certain that we'll talk again. For 22 panels, this has been Lauren Hitzhusen, and we will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22panels podcast.